Eclipso finds a new host, and the JSA hunt for the demon. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve from Valhartv, and today I'll be reviewing Stargirl Episode 5. So we start off this episode with another flashback to 10 years ago. So this is kind of like a theme, even in the original series, or the first season, I should say, where we're doing a lot of flashbacks. This one is in Farmersville, California. And we end up meeting young Cindy as she awakens from a nightmare and her mother comes in. So now this is her birth mother. And here we find out a little bit more about Cindy's past and her regret. Because she's continuously thinking of her mother, her biological mother, and then her mother that her dad kidnapped, last season. So we really see like Cindy's a little conflicted here. I feel like she wants to be evil and stuff, but she still has some regrets about the things she's done. And of course, Cindy continues to try to recruit, but fails with Cameron as he shuts her down, and then she does something vindictive because of it. So we really get to see a good scene where she uses, again, Eclipso and his powers to do something vindictive because somebody didn't do something she wanted. So it's very interesting. And I feel like this episode is more driven by relationships and feeling lonely than really any of the other ones. Like, this has kind of been a theme for this season. We saw it with Mike and the Thunderbolt pen. Now we're getting it more with him. We get to see Courtney and Cameron spend a little more time together. And then what happens when one bails on the other one. So there's a really good scene with Courtney and Cameron where they're just about to actually start kind of talking about their feelings, and then boom, Courtney's got a bail, and he even says it. Well, you did this to me before, and she's like, "Oh, promise, like, see ya," and it's like, wait, what? So really, we're getting to see more relationships in this, and we're getting like the consequences of not actually being there for somebody who actually likes you. And we also see Mike is depressed and he's trying to find ways to help out, like we see him at the junkyard and he's trying to get a car fixed up so it could be the getaway car for the JSA, and he's trying to help out. And Pat keeps trying to stop him, he's like, this is dangerous, you shouldn't be in this. And then he finally stops doing that. Like, Pat finally stops doing that and is like, okay. So I really like that, because Pat is, he is very protective of everybody. Like everybody in the JSA and, of course, Mike. And that's why they're still, like, keeping secrets from Courtney and the rest of them. They don't want them to find out certain things because they'll never look at things the same way. But again, every time somebody's done that, it's always backfired. And I know, it's not that even I have a feeling. I know it's going to do the same thing here. And it's really, they really need to figure that out, you know what I mean? It's a trope that they've used even in comic books and stuff. So I thought this the scene where the Shade shows up and gives Barbara an ominous warning was really good. He literally shows up at her office and she's like, "What are you doing? What do you want?" And he's like, "Listen." He's like, "The weather is only the beginning, like the real bad weather." He's like, "You don't want to see what Eclipso is capable of." I really thought this was great because it's a really good use of his powers again. And he's just a really good villain. He's a really good presence on screen as well. The guy who plays him. I thought this was really good. And again, like I said in my first review of this season, the villains were the best part of season 1. all the villains had something that they were working towards, and they were actually relatable and likable. And the Shade is no different. He's like, listen, people need to stay out of my way. The Eclipso is, not going to do anything good. He's like, let me handle it. And they're all like, no, you got to tell us what's going on, what you're doing, And I'm just like, man, I'm super thrilled about this. Every time he's on screen, he's literally awesome. Like the newer villains and even the new JSA is not as interesting as the originals. Like the older characters, I think, are a lot better actors and actresses. And that's the one thing that we have to, deal with. But, these kids are just all starting out too, I feel like. So, I always give them a pass because they're not used to acting. This is probably some of their first gigs, and they're trying to get the hang of it. And it's, I assume it's hard. I assume it's hard to do this kind of stuff. I mean, I wouldn't know personally, but yeah, I really, really like the villains of this, like the older villains. And towards the end of the episode, we get a glimpse of what Eclipso is capable of with a new villain that Courtney has to face. So, like, we really get to see that Eclipso is able to give people abilities, it seems like. So I thought that was very interesting and very cool. The scene at the high school with Eclipso, again, was great. They looked good, and the fact that the lighting was darker, like, really helped out. Like the graphics and stuff, the things that happened during it. We see a part where a face pops out of a gem, that's painted on the wall, and we really get to see like this new villain. I believe from the comics it's Paintball. So this might be a one-off thing, but I mean, it kind of like this whole thing at the high school kind of looked like it could have been from a scary movie, except for just a little watered down, because it's not a horror, series. And the acting again, I thought was good. Overall, everybody did decent. But, the acting for me for this episode goes to Shade and Barbara as, he gives her the ominous warning and she literally stands up to him and says, look, tell us what's going on. Tell us what you're after, And he's all like, no, I keep my plans to myself, just like every other villain, except for like the old days where the villains literally monologued. They've got the girl on the railroad tracks, and then they monologue until the hero comes along and saves them and stops the bad guy, But this time, they're not doing that. So I was like, dude, I'm super interested in what's going to happen. So this episode shows us what can happen when you have unresolved issues and regrets, And it also shows us what, everybody's trying to do. Like Cindy's still trying to recruit, and she's gonna go after Mike next. And we also get to see a little bit about Eclipso's powers growing. So I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with Eclipso versus Cindy and see what the Shade is really up to. Is he going to team up with Eclipso? Is he going to try to stop Eclipso? What's his real intentions, I'm really interested to see that. And will we get to see the return of the Green Lantern and the others, from season 1? Like, we've seen, like, hints of a couple of people from season 1 in this season, so I'm wondering if these guys are going to come back from the original JSA, So, really, I thought this episode was overall good. I would give it at least 7.5, 8 out of 10. This was a good episode. If you guys like what I do, please hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Take care for now, everyone.